Very good. You know, Senator,
Yeah,
I've been around long enough that I covered the PTL scandal in South and North Carolina with Jim and Tammy Faye Baker, and some people would argue that televangelism and the excesses of religion are nothing new. So why start this investigation now, and why did you select these 6 church organizations around the country?
Nothing magic about those 6, and there could have been maybe some more, but we've heard mostly about these. And this starts with Chuck Grassley being involved in the investigations of nonprofits of all kinds over a long period of time, maybe 5 or 6 years. So it's quite natural that people that you might call whistleblowers would come to me. But we first got interested in this from some television reports, some print media, but we had very interested third parties come to us and give us evidence that maybe there was misuse of money. So this fits in with what my crusade is as former chairman of the committee and now ranking member. The committee's responsibility to make sure that the tax laws are followed, and when there's a tax exemption for charitable giving, that it's not abused, and also then that a nonprofit use the money for which purpose it was given. And so we hear enough of that, and so we decide we need more information. We want to go directly to the source, so that's why the 6 letters to these 6 ministries.
You've been very careful, Senator, to point out that this is Chuck Grassley initiating this and not as a leadership role in the committee. But what's been the feedback there on Capitol Hill among your colleagues and among committee members about this today?
Well, first of all, there's more interest among the press and maybe some people within the religious community than there is from my colleagues right at this point. But let me say that when you ask the question about Chuck Grassley initiating this investigation, that's not unusual, because even when I was chairman of the committee, I tried to do things as much as I could on an individual basis, not to take up the time needlessly of committee members, and only instituting a committee hearing as a last resort. Because you see, whether it's the Red Cross or whether it's the Smithsonian Institute or the Heritage organization, Natural Heritage, organizations like that, they have come around to cooperate with me as an individual, and I'm hoping that these 6 ministries will do exactly the same thing.
You know, some of the feedback that we've been getting today, Senator, from our online component is that people are concerned somewhat about this, especially those supporters of this particular church in Tampa, about the separation between church and state. When does government have the right to investigate churches like this to find out where and how they spend their money?
Well, first of all, we have no right being involved with doctrinal issues, and this doesn't involve that at all. This involves their nonprofit status as any nonprofit organization. It involves the tax laws being enforced and followed, and quite frankly, with any nonprofit organization, it ought to encourage a great deal of transparency, because if I'm contributing to a church, I ought to know that my money is being used with the intent in which it was given. So we're not involving a church state at all, except the extent to which the IRS is already involved in that issue. And that's pretty peripheral, as you probably know.
I wonder if the FCC could also become involved in this, Senator, because as you well know, many of these televangelists use their airwaves and use their television programs to solicit their books, tapes, DVDs, and to gain money from that. Are you also interested in looking at that aspect of this?
I have not even thought about looking at the Federal Communications Commission involving, because they're in TV. There might be a nexus there, but I'm not on the Commerce Committee, so, you know, that doesn't come to my attention. And if something does come to my attention through my investigation that I think the Commerce Committee might be interested in, then I would turn that information over to the Commerce Committee.
Again, from our online component and the comments that we've been getting from some of our viewers and the readers of the Tampa Tribune here, they're wondering about how you separate a major organization, a major church. For instance, if the Catholic Church, if you were to start looking into them, not to single out any religion or any leadership group, but certainly I've been to the Vatican and their holdings are expansive. The papal residence is quite impressive. The way in which the Pope lives, the way he travels around the world on a luxury airliner, how do you separate that and a local church, even if it's a very large church, and the way that they live?
Well, listen, I can't do anything about the Catholic Church and its headquarters in Rome. All I can do about is look at what the tax laws are, look at what a nonprofit agency or organization's responsibility is, and look at it from that standpoint. And then, you know, I'm a Christian. I can have sympathy for the ministries that they want to have, but in my own local church, if I donate to that church, and I do, in the spirit of tithing, then, you know, that church has a responsibility to tell me what they're doing with my money. And I would think that any ministry would want to maintain the credibility of their contributors in order to enhance their future growth. And enhancing credibility is important here. For instance, you know, one of the whistleblowers came to us and said that in one of these ministries, there was $28,000 paid for a marble commode in a very expensive home. Well, is that wise use of contributors' money? Is there an independent board of governance that's making that decision? Or like we're finding in some of these governance boards, family members are approving big salaries and fringe benefits for other family members. And to what extent does that meet the needs and requirements of a nonprofit organization? These are questions that need to be asked. I wish that I could tell you that there's been wrongdoing or not wrongdoing, but I don't know. That's why we sent the letters out. We want these ministries to speak for themselves.
But I suppose another way for me to ask this is, where do you draw the line? Is it acceptable for the minister or the head of one of these extremely large churches to drive a Rolls-Royce, or should they be driving a Buick? And where do you decide what is too much in this case?
Well, I think for a person like me, it's this simple. Jesus came into the city on a simple donkey. To what extent do you need a Rolls-Royce to expand the ministry of Jesus Christ? I speak this as a Christian. A Jewish person could ask the same thing of their religious leaders. Muslims could ask the same thing of their religious leaders.
Senator, I appreciate your time very much. Thank you for helping us out.
Okay, thank you.